So in the past, I've generally run ROCKSHOX SRAM gear. So SRAM drivetrains, SRAM brakes, ROCKSHOX suspension. Had a little bit of 36, Fox 36. Had a little bit of Float X2, a little bit of DPX2, but predominantly on ROCKSHOX. Predominantly, I've had better success with ROCKSHOX. Lyric, definitely. The Zeb I didn't mind. The rear shocks, the ROCKSHOX, the Float X2 way back on my 2015 Rain, which was the last time I was on a Rain, or last time I owned a Rain, I should say. That was killer. That shock was really, really good at the time. And it's, you know, it's only just had minor changes and it's still a killer shock. So this bike comes with Fox. So it comes with the new Float X, as you know. And Shimano drivetrain, Shimano brakes. Budget Bob Shimano brakes. We're running the Shimano. They have a number on them. They're like the lowest. They're not even an SLX. 220 rotor at the front, 200 rotor at the rear. These brakes are incredible. The Shimano brakes, bang for buck, reliability, they are just to me, they're just the best on the market. You don't pay through the teeth for them. A little bit of maintenance to kind of stay on top of that wandering bite point. These have been really good. They need a bleed now, but they're still super consistent out on the trail. They're still really, really good. Doing a mono, I don't get any surprising disappearing rear brake or anything like that. But they are getting a little bit, like if I have it upside down, I'm starting to lose a bit of lever. So I will bleed them. Simple bleed, mineral oil. You don't have to worry about a mess. It's not really toxic. I mean, I don't know how toxic it is, but it's not like the dot fluid. So I do like that. I'd like to not have to worry about a wandering bite point, but for me, it's a minor thing. For the ease of power that you get on these brakes, like over a 20k ride or 6 or 7 downhill laps, your fingers do way less work than on any SRAM brake I've had. Saying that, my Code brakes, my Code RSC that I have on the Banshee, the SRAM brake pads, I think, are the weakest link in the SRAM brake setup. So those brake pads, so the metal brake pads, metallic or sintered brake pads, feel killer. They feel incredible until they've been through a really high heat cycle. So once you've burned them, and they're a lot easier to burn than a Shimano pad. So once you've done a hot run where there's a lot of braking, you're going fast, a lot of braking, whatever, you get to the bottom of the run and those pads are toast, they're hot and they go a little spongy and a little soft, they're never the same again. You'll never ever have that bite again until you have them up at that. They get that bite back at high temperature. They don't have that bite again at normal temperature, and they feel really cloudy at low temperature. Like there's not a lot of bite, not a lot of endo bite and whatever. The Shimano pads never do that. But on those Code RSCs, I went to the Galfa pads. Galfa green pads in the front and a Galfa red pad in the back. The red seemed okay, seemed pretty good. That green one is killer. I've never burned them out. They never get too hot where they go spongy or anything like that. They're always consistent. They bite hard when they're cold, they bite hard when they're warm, and they bite hard when they're hot. So those Galfas absolutely improve the SRAM brakes. No doubt. To me anyway, that's what I think. The SRAM sintered pads, the organic pads are okay, but I haven't spent much time on those organic pads, to be honest, because you just chew through them too quickly. So Shimano, I don't really feel the need to go an aftermarket pad at all. These Shimano pads are killer. I'm pretty sure I have metallic pads front and rear, but I don't even know. I haven't opened them up and had a look or anything like that. They're just good. There's a lot of bite. There's a lot of power. They never fade on me. They're killer. The drivetrain. I've always liked the SRAM drivetrain for that little button where you can, pull your clutch foot, pull your hanger forward, your mech forward, lock it out so you can get your wheel on and off. Super easy. But I don't like the clutch on the SRAM gear. The clutch is garbage. So XO usually comes out with a decent clutch. GX is completely hit and miss. Some of the GX clutches feel great, feel nice and tight, and it takes you 12 months before they start really getting slappy, or 6 months at least before they get really slappy. Some of them are slappy straight out the box. I've warrantied a number of SRAM GX derailleurs from the slappiness. Some of them fail as well. Some of them lose that screw in the cage here, and the cage just falls off, or the wheel just falls off. You know, certain things happen there. The cassette is really, really heavy. The SRAM cassette, not really heavy, sorry, is really, really expensive versus this SLX. I don't know what the weight difference is between the SLX cassette and the SRAM cassette. I like the SRAM cassette that it's a one piece and you just chuck it on, wind it up, put it on, no worries. You don't lose any rings, and you don't have to do the little, putting everything on individually. And if it goes like a yard sale, you got to work out which one went under which, and which cassette goes where, and your gaps and whatnot. It's not rocket science, but it's just a little bit of an inconvenience to mess around with. But the Shimano drivetrain shifts considerably better in all situations than the SRAM. So I would run if you were running SRAM everything and you're looking at getting a new wheel set or something, get a wheel set that can run a micro spline, because even on a SRAM everything, so SRAM chain, SRAM shifter, SRAM derailleur, everything, the SRAM running gear shifts better with the SLX or the XT cassette, with the Shimano cassette setup. And it feels like it's like, it must be the gates. The gates are better. The shifting's always crisp. It's always really good. I've smashed this derailleur. This derailleur's got a big chunk out. One of the bolts that hold the cover of the clutch on is actually missing because I smashed it clean off. So my hanger's a little bit bent, but still I get every gear shifting nicely. It's not as good as what it was when it was perfect, but every gear still shifts in and out of itself. I don't get any sticky, awkward, weird, waiting for it to drop, any of that. So more resilient to small damage, I think, the Shimano setup as well. And the clutch, as long as you pull that up, as soon as you get one of these, as soon as you get whether it's this is a SLX or XT or whatever, if you can access that clutch, pull the cover off, clean it up, and marine grease. Get some marine grease in there, because it's not waterproof. It should be waterproof, but it's not waterproof, and water always gets in there when you're washing it. So if you marine grease in there, pack it full of marine grease, or not full, but pack it with marine grease, that clutch stays super smooth, really, really smooth, and you can keep it tight so it doesn't slap. So if you don't do that, you get this click, 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 click. It becomes notchy. It becomes a lot of friction in there, and it notches through stuff. So that kind of affects I think that affects your suspension feeling a little bit, and it affects your shifting for sure. So marine grease or some sort of a good, hang on. The rice is cooking and I don't want it to burn. So where were we? Marine grease or just a good grease. I'd definitely go marine grease, just to stay away from that water. Moving on to the suspension. Fox 38. I've been back and forth on this fork a lot. For the 170mm, for the 160, I like the 2 tokens to the 1 token. For this 170, I think I'm going to settle with the no token setup now. So I've been on one for the majority of the time on this bike. I've tried a heap of different 38s. I've been back and forth on a few different setups, but I'm currently really liking the smoothness of no token. So that's 103 PSI, no token, and then compression and rebound to suit. You all know my, or heavy watchers would know my compression and rebound settings for this damper. I'll go through that when I do a full review of that suspension, but it feels killer. It feels smooth as butter. It's really charged, like it's only probably 15-16% sag. It feels great. It feels killer. Now this rear shock, Marzocchi Bomber. I was going to go an expensive coil. but I wasn't sure if this bike was going to work for a coil. I've been back and forth with mullet 29er, mullet 29er. Was at the stage where I thought, oh, maybe low position, low position 29er was the best for this bike. Good momentum, good climbing, good pretty much everything. Now that I've got this rear shock tuned the way I want it, so I've gone light compression and I had to go light rebound as well, because the rebound tune on this shock is really, really slow. And it never used to be, I don't think. So on my Slash, which was a 2020 Marzocchi Bomber, I believe, a 2021 Slash, but I bought the 2020 Bomber. The rebound stroke was fast. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with that, running a 350 spring. The one I had on my Patrol, I was running a 475 spring because it was quite a linear design in the frame. And rebound was fine on that one. But then when I got my Banshee, I borrowed a friend's 2021 or maybe 2 Marzocchi Bomber, and it was slow. It was a really slow rebound and still super firm on the compression. I've always had those compressions taken to the light tune, but really, really slow. And I thought, oh, maybe there's something wrong with that shock, in isolation. But when I bought this, same story. I got the compression lightened, but the rebound was just so slow. Like literally couldn't get any rebound from it on a 350 spring. So sent it back, got the rebound lightened as well, and now it's killer. That rebound it's just butter smooth, really responsive, can fly, carries wicked momentum, and that compression stroke is excellent as well. So I'm running, I think 4. 1, 2, 3. Is that 3? 2, 3, 4. I'm running 4 clicks of compression, and it feels killer. It could be a little, I feel like I'm reaching for a click of high-speed compression, but if I was to go back to the standard compression, it's way too much high-speed compression. Way too much resistance at the initial impacts. Way too much resistance. And I have to run that dial all the way open, which gives me no real low-speed compression. So with that tune now, it feels killer. So light compression and a light rebound. And the bike, mullet, I'm back on a mullet. Feels killer, climbs well. Got the aggressor out the back. I got a Cush core in there. We got the Nuke Proof Horizon wheels. This wheel feels killer. Wheels feel killer. I've ended up in the mid position. So on the mullet, I was always in the high position, and the 29er I was always in the low position. I didn't like the mid position for the 29er. It was just a little too tall. And the high position for the mullet is a little choppy. It's a little like the initial breakaway is choppy. It's gung, gung, gung. It just catches on edges. Whereas in this middle position, it doesn't. It's a little softer, which allows me to keep that spring firmish without it feeling like it's chopping me up under the feet at all. So this feels really, really good in mid position, so which is a different flip chip. So there's actually 2 styles of flip chip this comes with. That's the low-high flip chip and then a mid flip chip. So got the mid in there, feels killer. I've got the Mazda on up the front. That feels killer. That's showing real good promise. The sides are a little bit hard. Like they feel like it's made of a harder rubber. It feels like that the outside of that edge it just doesn't bend over. It's harder to bend over. But the middle's super soft, super wallowy, like super floppy, really compliant. Feels great on the track. There's heaps and heaps of grip on hard rock, like wet rock. The tire's feeling killer. It's just that edge might be a little bit, if you're like dropping into a rocky left-hander or something and you're right on the edge of the grip, where a DHF, like that max grip corner, will kind of move around and squirm and keep you where you need to be and grab grip. This one kind of just kind of shifts across things a little bit, I think. More time will tell, but I think it's really good. I've got more stuff to say about that tyre, but I won't go into that yet. I guess what I'm saying is I'm kind of moving towards not so much the Fox suspension. I really, really want to get this ROCKSHOX, this new ROCKSHOX suspension. and see how it feels. The fork, I think I'm a 38 over a Zeb for sure. I'm definitely a 38 over a Zeb, even though it's more complex spring and more maintenance and trickier maintenance, not more maintenance, more involved. Brakes, I'm definitely a Shimano brake guy. There's no more SRAM brakes for me. There's definitely no more. I love the. I used to love the feeling of the SRAM. That I thought I loved the modulation, but really I can modulate these brakes, no worries, and they're way more powerful. They're way more on and off, and I can still modulate them plenty. I've just got heaps more finger. I don't use as much finger effort, so very impressed with that. Love the bike. Yeah, I think Shimano drivetrain for sure over the SRAM. I'm happy with going to SRAM if they can improve their clutch. If SRAM can fix that clutch, that garbage clutch that's super inconsistent, then I could go back to a SRAM derailleur just for that button, purely for that button, for the convenience button. But definitely Shimano cassette. So that's it for now. Bike's running killer. The coil's killer. And yeah, no, I won't touch on that. Coil's killer for now.